In this tutorial, we're going to continue to work on our tabs interaction, and we're going to build out our slide layers. So what we have so far are 5 buttons with rollover states. When I click on them, they have visited states. So what we want to do is set up some slide layers to correspond with each button. So let's go ahead and close the preview. We come back to our practice file. And what we want to do now is create our slide layers. Right now we have our base layer, so we create our first layer, which is going to be customer service. So I'm going to create that by selecting new layer. And I'm going to title this. Now that's a good habit to get into when you're working in Storyline, is to title everything. So this is our customer service layer. Now I'm going to build my first layer because all of the other layers are going to basically be the same. So if I build my first layer, I can duplicate that and then I won't have quite as much work. So what I know I want is a title up here, and then we'll just fill the layer with a white box. So let's go ahead and insert our white box first. So we're going to insert a shape. I'm going to draw the shape on the screen. First thing I want to do is format it. So let's go ahead and get rid of the shape outline. And I want to fill it with white. And I want to make it somewhat transparent. So we'll right click, choose Format Shape. I have my transparency. And I can slide this. I think about 20% is right. So I can type that in here, hit close. And now I have my background box. And what this does is I can overlay it on the image and it softens up the image. So I get the benefit of the texture of the image, but not quite as much distraction if I want to put content on top of that. Now we'll go ahead and add a title here. So we'll insert a text box. We'll add a nice big title. We'll call this customer service. And I'm going to format this. We'll center it. I'm just going to make it really large, and I'll even bold it. So we've got a nice bold title. We can put some placeholder text in here, and this is a bonus tip for Storyline. If you go to Insert, choose your text box, and just go ahead and draw out your text box. And we're going to type in equal, and then lorem, L-O-R-E-M, and then parentheses, and hit Enter, and we get some of that Latin placeholder text. And this looks fine for our layer. Now what we want to do is duplicate that. So we'll duplicate these layers, so 4 layers. So we're just going to go to duplicate, and so I need 5 layers. I'm just going to title these. So the first one was customer service. We'll type in sales technique, and then I'll pause this and type in the rest. So now we have a slide layer that corresponds with each tab. What I need to do is go to each slide layer and make sure I change the text. So this one was sales technique. And then I'm going to pause that and complete the other one. And now we're all done. So each layer has its own unique title, and that'll correspond with the tabs here. And now what we need to do is set up our triggers. So we're going to come back to our base layer. So we want to add a trigger to each one of these tabs. So if I click on customer service, I can come over here to the triggers panel and begin to add my triggers. So again, I talk through the triggers. What do I want to do? When do I want to do it? In this case, I want to show a layer when I click on the appropriate button. So I'll create a new trigger. What do I want to do? I want to show layer, and you'll notice that all of the common triggers are up here. So show layer. I choose my layer. This is where the titling really comes in handy. So customer service, when the user clicks on the customer object. So that's really easy to read. Customer connects to customer. Now because I created this trigger, and it's going to be the same basic trigger on all of these shapes, I'm going to take a shortcut. I'm going to copy the trigger. Then I'm going to select these remaining 4 tabs and paste them. And the only thing I need to do is change the trigger. So communications needs to go to communications. Customer service goes to customer service. Market goes to market. Sales goes to sales. And self goes to self-promotion. And this again is a good example of why titling really comes in handy, because I can quickly scan these. So if I have to do any troubleshooting, I can see that self, sales, and it's an easy way to see if I made a mistake. Now we'll go ahead and preview this and see how this works. Got my rollover, got my visited state. You can see I see that. I can click. We can see that everything's changing. And now we have 5 visited states because we visited all of these. Now what we want to do is look at how to disable the next button and then re-enable it when all of these have been visited. So what we can do first is we want to change the state of the next button. So let's create a trigger. So what do I want to do? When do I want to do it? I want to change the state of the next button, but when do I want to change it? Well, I want to change it when the slide first loads. So the action is change the state of, which again is a common one. Change the state of what? Well, you can't see it because I have so many things on the screen, but change the state of the next button, which is on the bottom. So change the state of the next button to disabled when the timeline starts for this slide. I hit OK. If we preview this, the timeline's going to start, so the next button is disabled. I can click, I can click, I can click, I can click, I can click. Once these are all clicked, I want to enable the next button. Now I need to add another trigger. And what do I want to do? And when do I want to do it? I want to enable or change the state of the next button to normal when all of these have been visited. One of the things I can do with Storyline is I can evaluate the states of the objects on the screen. So in this case, when these are clicked, they become visited. So I'm going to create a trigger. What do I want to do? I want to change the state of the next button. So change the state of the next button to normal when the state of all, in this case, all of the buttons here. So we can scroll through. And all of these buttons are visited. So if we read this, change the state of the next button to normal when all of these buttons here are visited. So let's go ahead and preview this. We have our buttons here. Everything's working. Click. This is disabled. Click. I see a new slide layer. Click. Click. And when I click this last one, this should now change. And there you go. So we created a conditional button based on evaluating the states of the objects on the screen. And that's basically it for the tabs interaction. In the first tutorial, we focused on the tabs, so we learned to create multiple states for a single object. And then we also learned a few formatting tips and tricks. And then in the second tutorial, we looked at creating slide layers, a few formatting tips, and then we also learned about building the triggers and evaluating the condition of the objects on the screen. So we were able to create a conditional next button based on visiting everything on that screen. Now it's your turn to go practice this and build some tabs interactions for your organization.